We are so close to learning what jerseys the 2020 NFL draft class will suit up in. Now, we already know that this year is going to look dramatically different than in years past, but we still want to talk about each team's draft needs. And for that, I bring in Steve Overmyer from CBS 2 in New York. Steve, first I want to ask you, what are the Jets' draft needs this year?
The Jets have two glaring holes to fill that they need to fill in this draft: tackle and wide receiver. And up until this past week, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that the Jets were going to go with a tackle, which is still a possibility if one of the top four tackles slide to them at number 11. But recently, I found out that Adam Gase really loves Henry Ruggs III, the wide receiver who has extra speed. And that's what Gase loves for this offense. You can help Sam Darnold out in two ways. One, by protecting him, or two, by giving him a weapon to throw to. And it's starting to feel like the Jets could be leaning more towards giving him that big weapon, especially now that Robbie Anderson is in Carolina.
Same question, but flipping it over to the Giants, who do you think they're going to go with this year?
I think the Giants definitely need to get an offensive lineman as well, but they could be looking at a pass rusher as well. Here's the thing. Dave Gettleman just had his pre-draft conference call, and he made it very clear that their two most important elements are being able to thrust the passer, but being able to establish the run with an offensive lineman and being able to protect Daniel Jones. And when you start looking at how they've added pieces in this offseason, you can help the team through free agency trades or the draft. They've picked up a cornerback. They picked up a number of linebackers. They must feel like they're okay in the pass rushing department. But I feel like this idea that they're going out there and getting Simmons from Clemson in the fourth position is really just a smokescreen, because it feels like they want to have one of those offensive tackles, but they might want to slide back a couple of positions to get that. Could be a dangerous game they're playing, because at 4, you have your pick of the litter of whichever offensive lineman you want to get. And if they're smart, which they have certainly thrown some curveballs at us in the past, it seems like it's a no-brainer that they're going to go with an offensive tackle in the first round.
Finally, Steve, there's so much uncertainty right now, both in the sports world and beyond. Now, do you see any changes happening for the NFL season this year because of all this?
Well, obviously, we're seeing a change in the draft, and that it's going to be a virtual draft this year. So the NFL is taking this very seriously, but it seems like everyone wants the season to play out as normal starting in September. Question is whether or not they're going to be playing in front of fans or not in front of fans. I think the season will most likely go on as scheduled, but the question is really going to be, well, there's going to be fan participation in this at all, or it could be entirely virtual. Maybe everybody's watching these games from home.
It already does have a little bit of an impact on players because they won't get to meet as early as they probably wanted to. I'm wondering if it's going to have any impact on their summer practices.
That's another great question, because, these guys do need to get back into shape, and especially since there's going to be a lot less contact in practices, which was agreed to by the CBA. And if they're talking about extending the season even further, I think all of those conversations kind of have to be brought into the mix right now as teams are preparing for trying to figure out exactly how do we get these guys as healthy as possible and make sure that they stay as safe as possible. It's a quandary that every NFL team is going through right now. But I feel like that's something that they're looking at past this first hurdle, which is making sure that their IT departments are in line and that they can have a full connectivity for the draft coming up on Thursday.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Steve. I really appreciate it. As you mentioned, the draft starts this Thursday, April 23rd. I'm Katie Johnston for CBSNewYork.com.